Happy Saturday. It's rainy and cloudy and nasty out there where I am, so hopefully it's beautiful where you are. I'm going to cover some of the news, some of the news articles that are of interest to me at the moment. Some of them I'm going to go deeper than others, but sometimes you go deeper, sometimes you don't, right? Top general says no role for military in presidential vote. This is 38 left, 38 center, and 24 right. So we're going to routers. The top U.S. general told lawmakers that he did not foresee the military playing a role in the election process or resolving disputes that may come during the November presidential election, according to a document released on Friday. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley's comments are largely a reiteration of the military's apolitical position, but come amid questions about what would happen if the election results were disputed. President Donald Trump has made unsubstantiated allegations that voting will be rigged and has refused to say whether he would accept official election results if he lost. That's completely unsurprising. I mean, he literally stated at one of his rallies that if he loses, it's because the Democrats cheat. He said multiple times, whether he's joking or not, that he should have a third term, or he should be in there for 12 years, or that Ivanka should be the next the VP or the first female president, not Kamala. I believe he's joking only until he can get away with it. That's pretty much where I am at that. In the event of a dispute over some aspect of the elections, by law, U.S. courts and the U.S. Congress are required to resolve any disputes, not the U.S. military. Milley told Democratic Congresswoman Elisa Slotkin and Mickey Sherrill in a written response to questions obtained by Reuters. I foresee no role for the U.S. Armed Forces in this process. We will not turn our backs on the Constitution of the United States. Well, the Constitution provides that we have a smooth transition from one president to the next. Invoking the Constitution has become a refrain increasingly used by Pentagon leaders as former top brass voice concerns that Trump is politicizing America's military, which is meant to be apolitical. Of course, he's politicizing it. Those concerns came to a head in the past month after Trump threatened to deploy active duty troops to quell civil unrest in U.S. cities over the killing of George Floyd, who died on May 25th after a Minneapolis policeman knelt on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden also invoked the military in the campaign, saying in June that he worries Trump will try to steal the November election, but he's confident soldiers would escort Trump from the White House if he loses and does not recognize the results. Somebody will need to. Apparently, the right doesn't really like this story too much. See, I mean, it's evident. So these people spoke at the RNC. They didn't speak at the RNC. They spoke in prepared statements. And it's saying that that they thought that they were talking about something else. This is a left 55%, center 36%, and there's no right there. We're gonna go with the Hill. I usually choose the Hill simply because, in my experience, sometimes they're posting things that are very right leaning, and sometimes they're posting things that are left leaning. So They have a pretty unbiased, I don't want to say unbiased, they have a pretty even track record in my experience. New York City tenants say they unwittingly appeared in GOP convention video. Tenants who were featured in a Republican National Convention segment on public housing say they had no idea their interview with a federal housing official would be used to support Donald Trump, the New York Times reports. I'm not a Trump supporter, said one of the tenants, Claudia Perez. I'm not a supporter of his racist policies on immigration. I'm a first-generation Honduran. It was my people he was sending back. Perez was one of the 4 tenants featured in the video, which went after New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio while praising Trump. The tenants were reportedly contradicted by longtime Trump associate Lynn Patton, who works overseeing federal housing programs in the state of New York. Perez told the Times that tenants were told after their interview that it was for the Republican Party and were never told it was for the convention. She said she learned it was for the GOP convention moments before it aired. I mean, so whether or not they make the claim that it was that they knew it was for the RNC is irrelevant, because currently they don't stand by being used as political tools for Donald Trump to push his agenda. I mean, he's been trying to push his agenda against people like this since he came in the office. We've had an other since he came in the office. What was it? First it was the Mexicans, then it was the Muslims, then it was the Mexicans. Now it's the Mexicans, Chinese, and the radical left. Prove me wrong. Study: children infected with COVID-19 could have traces the virus for weeks after detection. This is 36 left, 45 center, and 18% right. Another time that the right doesn't really want to talk about COVID, I suppose. We know where we're going. We're gonna just cover this briefly. Data from coronavirus patients in South Korea finds that children, both symptomatic and asymptomatic, showed traces of the virus about 21 days after they are diagnosed. This could be longer for asymptomatic patients whose true date of infection is not known. A study published in the JAMA Pediatrics Journal documents a sample of 91 children from 22 locations in South Korea. Each of the children had been confirmed to have contracted disease, with some being asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic, and symptomatic over the course of the study. That's a lot of symptomatics. The study was conducted from February 18th to March 31st. Researchers found that 58% of children were symptomatic and 22% were asymptomatic. Another 20% eventually developed symptoms. The most important finding was that the virus was still detectable for an average of 17.6 days overall, regardless of whether or not the individual child exhibited symptoms. Regardless. That is, if you can detect the virus, doesn't that mean that it could be spread? Doesn't that mean that it's something that needs to be taken seriously? This article right here where it says Iron Range mayors pitch Trump with Pence, that's where several Democratic mayors in the Iron Range decided that they were going to use the RNC as a time to get behind Trump. Okay. This is covered 25 left, 25 center, and the right loves it. We're going to go with the Duluth News Tribune. A cast of Iron Range mayors didn't upstage Vice President Mike Pence in Duluth on Friday, but a couple of them did take the stage with him, signaling their support for the Trump-Pence ticket in the most dramatic moment in a day heavy with conservative values. There's many people in northern Minnesota who truly are Republicans, Two Harbors Mayor Chris Swanson said, describing a blurring of what had once been a solid Democrat country. They truly understand what's going on. Do they? Swanson joined 5 other range mayors in timing their Trump endorsement with Pence's arrival at the I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Clore Public Marine Terminal. Clore. I'm seeing people come our way every single day, Pence told a crowd of more than 250 supporters. Damn, that's a big crowd. Anyway, who provided Pence with a series of standing ovations throughout a 50-minute address. They actually had to hear him talk for 50 minutes. He must have thrown his mother in there a few times. I'm not sure what he could have been talking about that whole time. We all go a little mad sometimes. The Trump-Pence ticket is vying for re-election for the presidency against Democrat Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris on November 3rd. Playing to the Iron Rage crowd, Pence said, "The president stood up to Chinese steel dumping," a sentiment later echoed by Virginia Mayor Larry Cuff. This is my favorite part. In a fact check, it's notable both men failed to acknowledge how President Barack Obama, was the first to go after Chinese steel dumping, sending his chief of staff, Dennis McDonald, to Virginia in 2015 to address the matter. During what was a depressed time for the mines, the Obama-led effort put high tariffs on Chinese steel products and signaled a turnaround on the Iron Range. Joe Biden did nothing to help the working class, Cuff said in error, while proclaiming himself a former Democrat in support of Trump. See, they rely on short memories. They rely on the ability to straight up lie to you and assume that you're going to think that any other differing opinion happened. Well, any other differing facts happens to be fake news. That's the propaganda machine. Goebbels was really good at that. Okay, Goebbels was the lead propagandist under Adolf Hitler. We talked about the cultural Marxism origins yesterday in my video, and how it stems from cultural Bolshevism, which is, excuse me, I'm not German, so if I pronounce that in a incorrect fashion, I apologize. But it's it comes from cultural Bolshevism, which is a term that Adolf Hitler used to describe liberal policies. Okay? Last one I'm going to talk about. GOP portrayal of We ain't talking about that now. Not at this moment anyway. GOP portrayal of urban I'm on the herbal kick. I'm at work, okay? I don't support that at work. GOP portrayal of urban mayhem doesn't always match reality. I could edit that out, but why? Excuse me one second. Intruders. At almost every turn at the Republican National Convention, speakers from the president on down portrayed American cities like Portland, Oregon, New York, and Chicago as lawless Democratic wastelands that have been overrun with violence, looting, and destruction that is forcing residents to flee for safer locales. Because one of the biggest, just look up how autocracies start, and one of the most important tactics that they use is fear. That's exactly one of the hallmarks of autocracy. Fear of the other, fear of misinformation, not stuff that we actually see in front of us. How many Democrats are there in the United States of America? How many people are actually rioting and looting? You're conflating small, minuscule numbers with the entirety of a political spectrum. Anyway, the reality on the ground is much more nuanced. In downtown Portland this week, tourists from Texas enjoyed gyros, that's how it's pronounced, gyros, at a food cart. A couple from the suburbs soaked up the afternoon sun, and a recent transplant from Indiana strummed an acoustic guitar outside a shuttered Apple store in front of a mural that's dedicated to black people killed by police. It's a pretty day, and we feel just perfectly safe as long as we've got our masks on, said Benjamin Green, a warehouse forklift operator from Beaverton, Oregon. I don't see why there's any need to be scared to walk around out here. The picture of American cities overwhelmed by violence has become a central theme of the 2020 presidential race. In his convention acceptance speech Thursday night, President Donald Trump called for law and order and said the country can never allow mob rule. No, the country can never allow mob rule. That's correct, but it's not mob rule that's currently happening. People have the First Amendment right to protest. It's the First Amendment, okay? If somebody mentions the idea of having stronger gun checks, the Second Amendment crowd starts, shitting their diapers, but we're over here trying to give away our First Amendment by outlawing protesting and things, okay? Conflating rioting and protesting has been a tactic, and people are falling for it. It's annoying. In Portland, protests have played out for more than 90 consecutive nights, frequently ending with vandalism. That's not going to be something I'm going to deny. Hundreds of people have been arrested, but the disruption is mostly concentrated in small pockets of the city. In those spots, including the 2 blocks around the federal courthouse and around some police precincts, graffiti is common and stores and restaurants are open but boarded up. Downtown businesses this week urged the mayor to do more to address the problems. In contrast, most neighborhoods in the city of nearly 700,000 people, that's 700,000 people, are untouched by the violence. Parks attract young families and joggers, and bars and restaurants cater to customers with outdoor seating areas spaced out for COVID-19. Seems business as usual, said Garrett Martin, who was visiting downtown from Fort Worth, Texas with his fiancée. We've been to a few shops. It's just the same regulations as everywhere else. We have to wear masks. Experts say violent crime has generally remained stable and low. Still, homicides and shootings are on the rise in many cities, but experts say it's too soon to say whether the trend will continue or what's driving it. Racial unrest is gonna cause violence. People that have been quarantined because we currently are undergoing a pandemic that only our country seems to have politicized. I mean, I'm reading that Paris has 7,000 cases a day or something, or is that deaths? I'm not sure. I think it's cases a day. Obviously, it's going to be cases a day. I don't know. In any case, I like to focus on what's happening here on Turtle Island for now. We have a lot going on. While I care about the people in other countries, I'm hyper focused on what we're doing here. But in any case, we're tell me other countries that have politicized wearing masks. Okay, I want to know, because that's one of the biggest issues that we're currently dealing with. Everything has to be politicized. Okay, in many major cities, there was looting and some property destruction during the height of the George Floyd racial justice protests, but order was restored months ago in most places. I'm not sure about many. I don't know what many major cities actually means, because there's only a handful that I can think of. David Abrams, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, created a database tracking crime statistics in about 24 major cities during the pandemic. The numbers are nuanced. Overall, violent crime is down, but there have been increases in homicides and shootings over the summer. For the first half of the year, he said, homicides are up 20% in the cities they follow. Yes, because people have been locked in their houses, not locked in their houses, but locked in their houses in their minds, less interactions on a personal level with people in order for us to tamp down this pandemic. It's going to create anxieties. It's going to create... Think about this. You haven't hung out with Annoying Joe for a really long time. I don't mean Joe Biden. Let's go with Joe McCarthy, the guy that did the communism stuff, because we don't call the other Joe Annoying Joe. We call him Joe Biden, number 46, I guess. In any case, you haven't seen this dude in a long time. Suddenly, you're faced with him and just how annoying he is. You're more likely to want to punch him in the face than if you get used to seeing him on a day-by-day basis. Okay, it's just the way it is. It's human nature. Pushing it as something that it isn't is part of the issue that we deal with. In any case, that's the news I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. This is a 20-minute long video. I'm at WIKWEKO on Twitter, IndigenousPatriot.com. Thank you.